So welcome back. Here we are for episode 2. Welcome back to Operation on the Rocks. Man, it's great to be here with you guys again. For all those of you listened to our first episode, thank you so much. If you want to see more content like this, if you want to see more conversation around controversial topics, and if you want to learn a little something, or if you want to butt in and tell us what you think, tell us what why you differ in opinion, let us know. Please like, subscribe, and comment on our content. And again, just to reiterate something too, and I want to call out something before we get started, is you go through life and you meet certain people and you realize that there's some people who you immediately just connect with, you vibe with, so to say. And the 3 guys sitting here beside me are definitely those 3 type of people. What they bring is something special, right? All these 3 guys I would consider successfully financially, in their relationships, as fathers, as professionals in their workplace. So again, I'm happy to share this with you guys, and I'm glad we're here. So with that being said, I'm gonna pass it to Mario for our drink of the day.
Awesome, Trey. Great intro, man. You're 2 for 2. You're like a natural. Hey, team. So for today, we're Operation on the Rocks. We're bourbon connoisseurs, and we are going to be partaking in Buffalo Trace. So I'm going to crack this thing open.
Shout out to Buffalo Trace, man.
Yeah, man. If you have not heard of Buffalo Trace, there's a reason for that. It's very difficult to find here in North Carolina. If you live in Kentucky, you're probably like, oh, they have it everywhere. But I'm telling you, this thing goes out of the store quicker than anything else. Grab my will. Let's see. All right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
All right. One more.
Yeah. Smells potent.
It
smells potent.
All right, guys. Shall we toast?
It's good.
Here.
Operation on the Rocks.
Episode 2.
Episode 2, man. Operation on the Rocks. Let's go. Let's go.
Cheers, fellas.
Let's do it.
So one of the things that we want to talk about today is quite controversial indeed. So as you know, there is no shortage of conflict. There's no shortage of tragedy that exists in this world. Some of the 2 main topics and potential topic in the future is the current Russia-Ukraine war. You also have Israel and Gaza. Recently, that's expanded to Israel, Gaza, Israel, Syria, Israel, Lebanon, Israel, Iran. And then you also have another sleeping dragon that I like to call it, far out east. And that is the China-Taiwan conflict that has the potential to change life in every way that we know it. I don't think we've seen since the 1850s, which was the American Civil War, that something has affected the American homeland and every people. And something people don't realize is if this happens, China-Taiwan conflict, it very well could change our way of life. And I hope people understand that. And that's exactly why we have this podcast, is to talk about these kind of things. So with that being said, with our first topic, we'll start with Russia-Ukraine. What do you guys, and specifically, what do you guys think from as veterans and as current serving military members, should we be supporting Ukraine and its defense against Russia? Why do you think? Why not? If that's the case.
You know what, Trey? I mean, I think it's rough. And I got a question for you. I got a follow-up question. But in terms of Ukraine and Russia, I mean, I think we need to stay out of it. I think that I think Americans, we give out foreign aid because for a long time, we tried to police the world, and that was as a result of World War II, right? We saw what happened in the First World War. We saw what happened in the Second World War. We kind of stood back and said, hey, look, we're not going to get involved until things got too serious. Then we got involved towards the end. And I think since then, we've been giving aid. We've been trying to stick our noses in different conflicts that really have nothing to do with us, and it's cost us thousands of American lives, right? And so my opinion is, if we're going to do aid, there needs to be a cutoff. It can't be, just a limitless fountain, right? That just says, hey, look, we're just going to keep giving you guys aid until y'all figure it out over there, right? I think that that's wrong. I think if we're going to do foreign aid, it needs to be a cutoff. But my follow-up question for you, Trey, because you popped it open with the China conflict. Why is China, let's say that China takes Taiwan, and I'm not for either side necessarily, right? I'm for the constitutional rights and protection of Americans. But let's say that Taiwan and China do enter into some type of, issue, and it turns into a war between those two. Why is that so important to us?
Good topic. Good point. And first and foremost, I just want to say that our views do not reflect the Department of Defense in any way whatsoever. These are purely our own opinions. These are purely our own views. So why does that matter, right? Why does that matter? So for those of you who don't know, let's take it back to the early 1940s, World War II timeframe, even before World War II, actually. So there was a faction called the KMT. I can't remember the exact terminology, but and then you got the communists led by Mao Zedong. They had a civil war going on until Japan invaded in 1937. When that happened, the communists and the KMT kind of came to terms, even though the communists, kind of had questionable contribution to that war. But essentially what happened was after the war, and just so you know, China was not spared during World War II. China had millions of deaths, absolute tragedy that befolded those people. So after that, the Civil War continued after the World War II. What happened after World War II is the KMT retreated to Taiwan, and the remnants of that government exist there today. Now, why is the tiny island nation so important to the United States of America? Why is it so important to the world? Well, there's something called the TSMC that produces some of the most advanced chips in the world. And this powers everything that you do, from your car to your TV to this beautiful podcast studio ran by my man Devon. This has if China were to gain control of, now Taiwan does have contingency plans to destroy their facilities if this happens. And, America, starting with Joe Biden, did do something called the CHIPS Act to kind of try to replicate this. But we're quickly finding out, every country, that this is not so easily replicated. This is realistically futuristic technology with the chips that they're making and they're producing. So this is, if China controls that, they will replace the U.S. as far as world power, soft power. They will control totally everything.
So this is a resource-driven issue for us.
Let's just call it what it is. Yes.
Okay.
We support every country's independence, but let's just call it for what it is. We have independence. We have something that we want and we need, and that is going to push our national defense policy.
Okay. I got more, but I want to hear what these.
No. So I tend to agree with you on that, what you were saying earlier, as far as, I'm going to just skip to what I want to say right now. I'm going to skip to what I want to say. Honestly, it always goes back to interest, man. It's none of these countries, including ourselves, have never done anything out the kindness of our hearts. You know what I'm saying? And so, no matter the conflict, if our presence is in that country, it's because we're getting something out of it. And I do tend to think that, hey, man, what would happen if we just sort of took care of what we have at home, the issues that we have at home? You know what I'm saying? We have a lot of things that those funds could be going to correct what we have here. And so that's one thing that's really on my heart. I do think that, hey, that is an issue because I think there's got to be some type of balance. You know what I mean? Because you don't want China to get too much power and then come over here and try to influence and do what they want with us or anybody around us, right?
Sure.
But what is that balance? You know what I mean? So I'll leave that up to y'all. What do you think?
Yeah, I tend to agree with a lot of what you said, Sean. We're not isolationists. We don't want war. Seeing people die, obviously, is tragic and isn't wanted or produce anything positive. But yeah, a lot of these conflicts that we're talking about come down to the economic interest. I think that's why there's been such a tremendous push in foreign policy for economic interest. Trump went to the Middle East. That was all economic interest. Then he went to Europe. He just cut a deal with Europe last week. That's economic interest. Why is it bad if Russia takes Ukraine? It's many people will die, and that's bad. But it's bad for the European economy. Therefore, it's bad for the American economy. These issues are inextricably linked. And same thing for Taiwan and China. If China takes over Taiwan, it will affect us, or is postured to affect us. Who knows how it plays out, right?
Yeah.
But it's postured to affect us negatively, and we don't want that. There's already been a technological capability, economic war happening now with AI.
Yes.
I mean, it's with gasoline, right?
Yep.
So I think that's what it's ultimately coming down to are those interests. And I think that you could look at, well, I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. That's a good mouthful.
Yep. Something too, to kind of throw out there about Ukraine is a very interesting situation. And it has been for quite some time. And what I mean by that is when Russia took Ukraine, when Russia took Crimea, that's one of Ukraine's landmass that sits on the Black Sea and was, once one of their commerce major ports. When Russia took that, they kind of started a shadow war. And this shouldn't have come as a surprise, because you go all the way back to 2007 in the Munich conference with world leaders. Putin specifically said NATO is expanding at an exponential rate. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but back in 2008, Georgia and Ukraine wanted NATO membership.
Yep, they did.
And guess what happened that same year? Russia invaded Georgia. It's, you can call it for what it is, but how would honestly, I want your guys' opinion on this. How would we react if Russia or China and I don't want to just, and I don't have anything against the people of the country. It's always with the government.
Right.
I want to preface that. So, right, if the governments pushed a policy where they had influence over Mexico or Canada or even some of the Caribbean nations, how would we react? What do you guys think would happen? I mean, you look at Cuba as an example.
Yes.
60 short years ago.
Yeah.
Soviet missiles in Cuba. Look what that led to. And I'm not saying Russia's right, and I'm not saying that at all, actually. But did we contribute to this? I want you guys. I kind of want your guys' opinion on that.
I think that America and we kind of made mention of it before, where it's like the U.S. has become or tried to become, and we're finding out that it kind of smacked us in the face, is trying to become the police of the world.
Yeah, nation building of the world.
When you do that, you're going to make enemies. We saw it with the terrorist attacks of 2001. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole, but you did a little bit of research, you understand that our involvement in the 90s contributed to the hate, right? The rebellion that possibly led to so many people dying in 2001, 9/11. And so I think that there is a thin line, right, between aid and hate. I think there's a thin line between, aid and hate. And sometimes we've crossed that line. And so we're trying to tell other large nations, oh, well, you can't do that. You can't have more land. But then we'll go and we'll grab some land.
Yeah.
It's kind of hypocritical, right? And I'm all for the U.S. being the most, what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm looking for the best interest of the U.S. And if that requires us to make a move, then we make that move, but then don't necessarily fault others for making their own moves.
Right.
It's like, do as I do, not as I, you know what I'm saying? Do as I say, not as I do. What your moms used to tell you when you was little.
And that, unfortunately, as we know as children, that doesn't work because they're going to watch exactly what you do and they're going to follow suit. Why not?
Yeah.
So,
to piggyback off of that, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from the GWAT generation, which is anywhere you go, it could be anywhere that you go. We could be talking about the Aborigines of rural Australia, but especially in a place like Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran. These are very old and very complicated societies. And to get in there and to 20 years of Western influence.
Did nothing.
Right.
Doesn't turn back.
Then it was about 6 days or so, the Taliban had control again.
And then
That's right.
Powerful than ever.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And then there were a lot of assets left there, and like not to rabbit hole and get on that piece of it. But I think that that's the biggest takeaway from that conflict is that these are very complicated societies. It is not going to be as easy as you think to go in and then on well, I don't want to rabbit hole on it, but and then on top of that, specifically talking about that, when you have complicated or not clear goals of what you're trying to accomplish and how you're going to accomplish them, it just makes it that much more.
And I'm glad you said that because I don't think there's a clear goal in Ukraine. Like Sean said earlier, we've been kind of funneling, and it's not been so much recently, but we were funneling endless aid at one point to Ukraine, and where does it end?
Yeah,
Where does it end?
Yeah.
Where does it end? It's the main goal.
Right.
And we don't know our goals.
other than to resist and continue on war of attrition. But
It's never ending.
yeah, there's no clear. And hey, Putin doesn't look like he wants it. He doesn't look like he wants it at all. And who knows? Like things change, whatever. Maybe something happens. He doesn't look like he wants it at all. So how can you? You can lead a horse to water, proverbially, right? So how can you make someone do something ultimately that they don't want to do when we're talking about these global level conflicts?
Well, Trump said he was going to end it in 24 hours.
Yeah,
I'm going to end it in 24 hours.
well, and that's the thing. If he ended it next week, or if it were to end next week,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Ultimately, history will look back and say, yes, it ended under his watch.
That is true. I mean, that is true. You got to give him his credit where credit is due.
So take away from that, when President Trump said, "When in 24 hours," take away from that. Be careful with the words that come out of your mouth because they can't be taken back once they come out. Think very clearly about what you say, and especially in a lot of settings, think very clearly about what you're about to say.
And, what was the other ones? Rwanda and Congo. There was a peace treaty signed, and there was something else this week. I can't remember, but a lesser known conflict or a lesser discussed conflict
That was supposed to be.
that was either ceasefire or is completely ended. The same thing for Pakistan and India. I believe there was a ceasefire that was brokered in some part by the administration. So we'll see how things play out. Yeah.
On another note, guys, and we're on the topic of war. We got to call out the elephant in the room, And again, these are my opinions. They do not reflect the DoD. We say that because we serve this country willfully. We love this country, but we got to call a spade a spade. What is happening in Israel right now is inexcusable. There is no excuse. I've heard a lot. I've heard it all, and I won't get specific, but I was in the area, and I will say that this is genocide. Okay, people are starving to death. Children are starving. It is not. So when we talk about wars and things that we're supporting, I personally do not believe. I believe that Israel has the right to defend itself, but this is not defending yourself. This is the equivalent of an ant biting your foot and then you setting gasoline on every ant pile that you see within a mile radius. This is not, this is no longer defending. Okay. We are going to wipe clean an area. And I personally, since we're on the topic of funding specifically, I personally don't think that we should be supporting financially anything like that. And I want to know what you guys think legitimately.
I want to provoke a thought since we're on that topic to you, Sean. So with I agree with you, especially in the sense of there's so many innocent people just losing their life for what? I can't help but watch. I'm a big history junkie. When I can't help but when I watch a documentary or something, you see all these people in antiquity, back in the times of the Roman Empire, they fight these wars and they die. Life goes on. They're forgotten. I mean, it's just an absolute tragedy. So, but let me ask you this. So when it comes to Israel, so the Palestinians, their main governing body is led by a group called Hamas that's highly militaristic and highly hostile towards Israel.
Okay.
So how would you let's say you're Bibi Netanyahu, and I know he's a controversial name right now.
Sure.
How would you handle the situation? I mean, you got rockets
Mhm.
flying into Israel on a weekly basis. You have another threat up to the north from Hezbollah.
Mhm.
Let's put it in the context of October 2023.
Sure.
You also have a major threat from there, and then you have what we call the axis of evil,
Okay.
and Iran funding both of these groups that are hostile towards you.
Sure.
But it just so happens they're concentrated in a city of 1 million plus people.
Are you talking about Gaza?
What strategy do you take? I mean,
Are you talking about Gaza?
Gaza, yes.
Okay.
How do you clear out the militaristic group and avoid civilian casualties at the same time? You know, that's. I think it's it's easy to criticize Mr. Netanyahu and his regime, but
Sure.
how would we tackle this problem?
I'm not saying I'm a military strategist in the sense of I have the blueprint to make it all go away. What I will say is there's a difference between fighting a nation state, right, which is an actual confirmed country,
Correct.
by international standards, and fighting a militia group.
Mhm.
What you just would the equivalent would be saying, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to take the U.S. military or the U.S. Army, and I'm going to go blow up everybody that's in the KKK. I'm going to go find where they live. And if I can't find them, then everybody that lives in somewhere in Montana where we believe the KKK is, I'm just going to blow up the state.
Yep.
Is that efficient?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think
I just think it's
I
efficient.
don't think it's efficient.
I'm curious.
I'm glad you clarified that. You said, yeah, I agree.
So, Chris, I want to kind of provoke your train of thought on this. And you're a great example of a God-fearing man, a Christian man. Israel is one of the holy lands of for quite some time. And what do you think about all this? I mean, this has to hit close to home, especially for people like us who walk the way or try to walk the way the best we can.
It's crazy, man, because while you say like Israel is a holy land and usually like we as Americans in the past politically tend to, hey, we side with Israel.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at the history of Israel and Judah, like if we want to talk about things biblically, they have the tendency to backslide. You know what I'm saying? So while they may be considered, depending on which lens you look from, they may be considered the chosen one, the chosen children, or whatnot like that.
Seed of Abraham.
The seed of Abraham. If you go to your Bible, you do see that, hey, like they do slip up sometimes. And so like it's not too far off to say, hey, call a spade a spade. What we're seeing right now is genocide. What we're seeing right now is this how God would want us to deal with this type of situation? I think it was a very good analogy when you were talking about, hey, like I'm looking for all the KKK members, you know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna blow up a whole state in order to eradicate them.
Are they hiding behind the trailers over there?
Yeah.
Blow them all up. Like that's
No, I mean that's an insane, way to go about something. I would say, again, just like you, I'm not a military strategist, but I would say there's got to be another way to meet your goal. And so, we, not us, but is Israel going about it the easy way? You know what? Like, we not going to be able to find all y'all, but we've been meaning to get, rid of, we know it's a high concentration, so all y'all got to go, you know what I mean? And we don't care who thinks what about it, and we just going to follow through with it. And so
I see similarities in our campaigns in Vietnam.
Absolutely.
The My Lai massacre and things like that. Yeah.
Yep. And so it's just crazy, you know what I'm saying? I think that we get tunnel vision as Americans sometimes when it comes to, political ideologies and things like that. Especially when it's like, hey, let's side with Israel. We have to do that. And if you say anything against Israel, then
they're anti-Semite.
You know what I'm saying? But I do, it's just like, let's really look at the situation, and is it possible that, hey, this is wrong. You know what I mean? So, and just call a spade, like you said. So that's really what I think about it. I would challenge, look, I'm nobody, you know what I'm saying? But I would challenge, you know what I'm saying, Israeli government, you know, hey, there's got to be another way to meet your goal outside of just let's.
It's absolutely heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. On all the conflicts that we've talked about today are absolutely heartbreaking, and the people in Gaza are no exception to that. We do, or the statistics I've seen show that we do give our top foreign aid to Israel. I'm not particularly a fan of that, but I don't know. You guys might think I'm crazy. I don't know if that's actually keeping it better, because the one thing we know about war is it can get worse.
Mhm.
So what if we say, okay, we're not going to support you at all, and then Israel or whoever, it could be we're not supporting Ukraine, and then something, and then you see how that situation really would play out
Mhm.
by our non-intervention, because again, we're not isolationalists. But I've seen the clips, the children starving, people standing in food lines, absolute horror. Ukraine and Russia, the numbers I heard is that there's about 400,000, 500,000 dead Ukrainians and about 700,000 dead Russians. You know what I mean? Like
A lot of dead people.
Yeah, you know, absolutely,
Lost.
absolutely heartbreaking. I don't know what the solution is, and frankly, I don't think anyone does, even though there might be claims that they do. But yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking. It's almost too much to take in. It's so sad.
I say we should get out of it. And we don't. There may not be a solution for us to solve that problem, but why are we involved in that problem? I know we're big brother. We're big brother, right? Your little brother gets kicked on the playground, you're gonna run up on that kid, right? But if your little brother is the bully, then what happens?
Yeah.
Do you teach your little brother? Do you tell him don't? Are you reinforce the bully mentality?
Well, and I know because we will never be able to understand like the depths of that conflict, bro. We've been on our side of the playground for so long, and they've been fighting even before the playground was built. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like us trying to inject ourselves is just like, like we see you, but we and yeah, it's hard for not.
But just for me, have a claim to the territory.
Yep.
Just like, I mean, and that's at the heart of Russia, Ukraine, which is if Israel really belongs to Gaza, then how does Ukraine not belong to Russia?
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Because
that's a great
they
point.
both say that they have a claim based off of this piece of thousands of year history.
And we're fighting the opposite in other places.
And
interesting.
And you know, colloquially, even before October of 23, you know, what we would say when we're talking about something that's unresolvable is we'd say, oh, that's like Israel and Palestine. You know, it's in the nomenclature. So yeah, very complicated, heartbreaking situation. Both people and both entities believe that they have a claim to the territory. I've heard that Israel has offered two-state solutions before. To what extent that's totally true or not, I haven't done enough research. Hey, you can put it in the comments. We will definitely check the comments.
Absolutely, 100%.
So that's good that you brought the two-state solution. So, you know, I've heard a lot of, you know, I don't know what we would do, you know, kind of answers. And I agree. I'm the same way. I had the same stance that you guys have in regards to this is a tragedy. Israeli government's got to find another way, man. Plain and simple. You know, if you're a soldier, right? Could you really, for the people that support, you know, warmongering and things like that, I'm not trying to call anybody out, but what I want to say is this. Would you sign up and would you willingly go into a village and let's just say, for example, you have a known perpetrator of violence against innocents and his family's there. Could you stomach getting past his family if they won't let you in the house? Could you stomach that? You know, that's something to think about. Also, you know, with the two-state solution, so I think that it's Israel-Gaza conflict kind of coming to a head, so to speak. You know, very adamant supporters of Israel in the past in France and Canada, as the last 2 weeks, have openly supported.
They're going to recognize
Palestine as a state, and we're willing to recognize that.
And that is big. That changes the game.
That is big.
I don't think people recognize how big of a change. And then we made mention to it before, right? When Hamas attacked, right? And the thing about Hamas attacking is this, and I'm not justifying Hamas attacking, but let's understand the situation here. Okay, 1948 or 47, Israel becomes what's recognized as a national state, right? A country unto themselves. This is right around the time that the war is won for World War II, and now these Jewish people that have been misplaced can find a home in Israel. Totally understand it. In that time, though, Palestine was already there, meaning the Palestinian people were already, it wasn't a vacant piece of land. There were already people there. These people then got ushered into Gaza. 40 years, 60 years later, we start having conflict. We have several conflicts before October 2023. Several. We have 2020. We have 2008. Yep. I think there was one in 2014 or 12. Y'all can fact check me, of course, but multiple conflicts between not just Hamas, right? Because Hamas is a militant group, right? A rebellion group. They're not that big. And I think what has happened is we've put them on a platform and said, look at these, they're so powerful. They're not. They weren't. This is a militia group that has angry, rebellious people following it. And then you have the people of Palestine, right? That are just trying to live, right? And then you have Israel that has Gaza in a powder keg, right? Like they're squeezing everything. Food, we can cut off your food, we can cut off your water, we can cut off your lights. Yep. That is going to produce rebellion. Yep. You cannot squeeze people and think that they're going to fold forever. So Hamas attack to me was inevitable. Yep. It was inevitable. Unless you give these people, we're the country of the freedom, the home of the brave. Unless you give people their freedom, they're going to rebel. Yeah, in my opinion.
What do you see the solution being?
Well, first,
in that area,
I think that Palestinians, in my opinion, deserve to be known as a nation state. They deserve to be known as a race of people and a people that should be respected as a civilization and not squeezed by any foreign government. Now, Gaza is what their home was. Gaza is not very large, but why is it that they can't have control over Gaza completely?
Yeah. I've heard President Trump, openly say too that other Arab countries must accept.
They won't take the refugees.
Yeah. So
it's a good point.
Let's talk about this. If other countries, primarily the Arab states, I'm talking about Egypt, Jordan, and multiple others.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're wrong for rejecting because, how do you, that does put a strain on your economic resources, accepting, thousands, possibly millions of people.
Millions of people, yeah.
So, where they would require a massive amount of aid to start up, get back on their feet, right? And we're talking about infrastructure in the middle, where they are.
Yeah.
It's not the most hospital region, it's desert kind of climate. You're talking about billions of dollars of aid just to get them started.
Well, I agree with you in the long term. In the short term, the immediate solution, stop preventing food and aid and water from getting to these people. Why are babies starving? Yep. Why do we have people in lines being shot at by, we just had I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was a Green Beret. This was like less than 2 days ago. If you haven't seen it, check it out. There was a Green Beret who had signed up to go and work for a contract company. He's been in the military for 25 years. And again, chat, comments, whoever the audience is, y'all go ahead, y'all check this out. This Green Beret said he went over there to help out with the United States forces who were working with Israel. Mm-hmm. And he took a video and audio of Israel soldiers and United States contractors shooting at the people trying to get food. Right? Stopping food from coming in, right? They're using, instead of using barbed wire, they're using razor wire, which is against international law. Okay? The reality is they're trying to kill these people. And we can, and why they're trying to kill them, right? We can try to point to several different reasons, but the immediate solution is stop trying to kill these people. Let these people get their food. Let them eat. If you can't find Hamas in this group, then you wait, right? Why are you trying to blow up civilians and stop them from eating when these kids are starving?
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
I agree. So with that being said, let's bring it back to the American homeland. And one of the most controversial topics that could possibly be discussed, in my opinion, Jeffrey Epstein.
Never heard of him.
Oh, man. He doesn't exist. He's a hoax, man.
He's a hoax,
He's a
right?
hoax.
Right. So anyway, what do you guys think about this client list? I mean, tell me what you guys think.
Yo, bring that joint out. Let us see who's on it, man.
You need to see that.
Bring it. Let me see the list, man. Let me see the list.
Let's bring this into the discussion. No, let's think about this, right? And no matter who's in office, I'm typically a middle ground kind of guy when it comes to my voting preferences. I'm going to use common sense. Whatever I think will benefit my family and America in general, the long term, is who I go towards. So, with that being said, does being on that list, simply being on a list of someone who visited Epstein Island or Pedophile Island, whatever they call it, is that an admission of guilt? Is that
pedophile?
Is that a let's burn your house down type of?
Well, are you asking whether the people who are on that list should be held accountable and face the penalties for
What
any
I'm asking is it an admission of guilt of being involved in a child sex trafficking ring, or is it simply that you had an association with a man that did hideous deeds? Because we can be honest with ourselves. I mean, any rational person, Jeffrey Epstein would have not immediately brought this out like, oh, hey, I got underage girls. Let's just be honest. This guy probably worked his way in delicately into circles, into very influential people, and that's how he became, successful. Let's just call for it. He was a very successful guy,
Most successful pimp that ever existed.
Yes. So I mean, what do you guys think? I mean, this is a big deal because this is a total pivot from what President Trump campaigned on and one of his talking points. This is a big pivot.
It is.
Association is one thing, right? But what do you do when the evidence starts coming up?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's saying that it's more than association. And here's my thing, I'm sort of like you in the sense that, bro, I don't lean right or left, what I feel like I'm going to lean towards whatever the Bible is saying. That's what I'm going to be. I'm Christian before I'm Republican or Democrat. And so my thing is I really don't care if Clinton, if the candidate is blue or red, you know what I mean? Because here's the fact of the matter. I have a daughter. I have a mother. I have a grandmother. You know what I'm saying? So I have many women in my life that have raised me to be who I am. So if your daughter, if that had happened to your daughter, for those of us who have daughters, and she came to you and she said, hey, this has happened to me. This guy has a lot of money. He has power. And I'm going to carry this for the rest of my life. My heart would break for my daughter. Right. And so the thing is, how would you as a father feel if you don't have the funds to take on Jeffrey Epstein or anybody else on that list, right? Because they're keeping it under wraps.
Yep.
And so would you want to see, you know what I'm saying, all that whole dark kingdom brought down to a rubble? You know what I mean? And so I challenge y'all with that question, because it's one thing we can dilly dabble, you know what I'm saying? And then say oh, these people, the association. I'm teaching my son right now, 13 years old, impressionable state. You can be guilty by association, you know what I'm saying? Guilty by association. And then the thing is and it's unfortunate. It's super unfortunate, right? We've all heard the stories of somebody being at the party with the wrong crowd and they get shot up as well. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm teaching my son that's one thing. But then when the evidence comes back and it shows that my son was actually involved with whatever crime or whatever he's getting shot at for, we got to start looking at that too. And so I just challenge y'all, I want to hear what y'all think. I think all of us have women in our lives who are super important to us. You know what I'm saying? So if that were to happen to them and they told you that truth, be like, hey, this happened to me. What would you want to see happen? You know? And so outside of the political, we make everything political, man. And I think it's
a right.
I think, yeah. It's like I wish we could sort of get away from that and start really looking at what's right and wrong. So yeah, what do y'all think?
100%.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons you're hearing about it so much, yes, Trump ran on it, but also there's not a whole lot of political wins happening for the Democratic Party right now. So the Matrix is certainly pushing this. It's been a fumble from the Trump administration, but it's also one of those things that if it came out next week, you would look back on it and say it was just like anything else. It's complicated. There are differences between guilty by association or somebody that's actually involved. If not, then how did the Diddy trial not bring down the entire hip hop community who didn't know Diddy and didn't do business with Diddy? You know, so,
Well, Diddy didn't mess with kids though.
yeah, but it wasn't kids, but he was.
He had sex with people, women.
Right, having women against their will, allegedly. This is just the one that we heard of. And maybe there was kids. We didn't see everything from Diddy's house and the recorded videos. He hasn't been charged with it yet. Something could come out that it was kids. Did Trump know Epstein? Like, we've seen the picture. Like, yeah, he knew Epstein.
Absolutely.
But Trump's also someone that's been in the public figure for 40 years. He's shaking a lot of hands. Does that mean he was on the island being mistreating with kids? Not necessarily. I think, and this kind of ties back into our previous conversation, there is something going on there. I don't know what it is. I think if it was just as simple as Trump being on it and being involved and they had hard evidence of that, why would the previous administration not come out with that? It would have been a lot easier for you to get Trump on that versus this trial in New York and, just all the little things along the way. It would have been so much easier to come out and try and discredit him. Plus, they threw the book at him with everything. If they had this, they would have definitely come out with it and used it.
Yeah.
So I think that, and this is the part that goes back to a previous conversation, I think that there's someone else on there. Maybe it's Prince Charles.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe it's Bibi Netanyahu. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's, who knows? But there's something going on. We know Clinton was there, whatever. Clinton hadn't been relevant in 20 years. Like, whatever, you know what I mean?
Mona Lisa.
But here's the thing, though. I don't. So I see where you're going with it in terms of you think that it's a Democratic or blue trap, so to speak, or there's this fascination all of a sudden. But I want you to my follow-up to you is I want you to stop thinking about the blue for a second and think about the party that you support, which is the Republican MAGA party, which is absolutely fine. You could support any party you want, but there is a fraction within your own party about this. Has nothing to do with the Democrats. The Democrats have been saying that Trump was involved with Epstein. This isn't new. They're not going to stop saying it. But the truth is, your own base, meaning Trump's own base, he even said the people in my base that think I had anything to do with this are losers and stupid, and I don't need your support anymore. So when you talk about the blue and you say, oh, well, Clinton, and what about this? And what about, I think that we're getting away from what is happening right now, which is there is a fraction of America, not of blue and red. If we can, you talked about it earlier, right? When you said, Noel talked about it earlier when he said he's a Christian first. Is it right or wrong? And I think as Americans, we got to get back to forgetting about the blue and the red for a second and think about what's right and what's wrong. The people on the red side that voted for Trump want the list. The people on the blue that voted for Kamala want the list. Where's the list?
Well, here's the thing, bro.
Why was it adjudicated in the last administration? They had 4 years to adjudicate it. We barely heard about this story until now.
The FBI said that they had the list and they were going to make sure. They
were just about to release it.
Okay, sure. But now this administration said they were going to release it too, and they have the power. You had Trump appointing who he wanted at the top of these agencies.
3.5 years to do it.
Why didn't we do it?
So
3.5 years, it could still happen. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
it's a hoax. How is it going to happen?
So here's what I want to say. I personally believe, man. I'm gonna just add to what y'all saying because because I hear what you're saying. Like if we do want to split it up between blue and red, like why the heck did you not release it when you had the chance, right? But my thing is, I honestly believe just because you're blue or you're a Democrat, you know what I'm saying? Let's not forget, if you are a politician, right? And then you have people who are, I'm gonna just say, like in the hood, you know what I'm saying? Who are like, hey, I'm Democrat through and through. You know what I'm saying? From the time I came out the womb till I'm 46, whatever, however old you are, I've been a Democrat. Those Democrats, those politicians, bro, they're still in a different tax bracket than you. They're still, and that's what we don't really think about. You know what I'm saying?
It's
even
a class thing.
yeah, it's a class thing. It's like, so Bill Clinton, like, and I know he, like you said, he hasn't been relevant for the last 20 years. Bill Clinton and his cohorts, you know what I'm saying? All these dudes, whether they're all these people, whether they are blue or red, I feel like they're in cahoots from a sense of they are still in the same class. They might not mess with each other from a political stance, but hey, hedonism is still alive, right?
Yeah.
Hedonism. Hey, I have bought everything that I could possibly buy. I haven't experienced this though.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a dark pleasure, right? And if these people have the money to get away with it without being caught, and they have this dude who's championing it, hey, I'll fly you out here. We can get this, man. Hey, I got it. Bro, I don't care. I don't care which, you know what I'm saying, your political affiliations. They took advantage of it. Now there's a list of it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I really think that I think that everybody, when you get up there, I feel like people are in cahoots. You know what I'm saying? Word of the night, cahoots, y'all. You know what I'm saying? But I think that they are in cahoots. I think that they are trying to experience something that they would get put under the jail for. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really particularly think that it's blue or because think about it. Even when Clinton, like, why they could have released it on him. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. Let me follow up on that real quick. If it was a Democrat, and I'm saying this right now because I voted blue. I voted for Kamala. I'll say it all day, right? And if it was one of the people, if it was a Democrat that did this, I want to know, and I want him in jail. I don't care that he's a Democrat. I don't care that he's not MAGA. I don't care about none of that stuff. I want him to, he or she, right? Because it could be, it could be whoever. I want anybody that had participated. Why? Because like you said, I got daughters. I got a mother. I got a sister. I want anybody that participated in this, extravagant experience at the Epstein Island to be held accountable. And all I'm saying is there are people that are so caught up in not wanting Trump to go down for anything that I question the moral grounds of which you follow a man. If you know that a man has a dark past and possibly did something that morally you wouldn't do and you don't stand for, what's wrong with saying, hey, that guy deserves the consequences of his actions?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. There is, when we're talking about a sinful nature, which is really at the heart of this, that's not a blue or a red thing.
Right.
Jeremiah said the human heart is evil. Yes, deceitful beyond all things, and evil. Who can know it? Or just you can correct me in the comments on that too. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you guys. And he was arrested in 2017. I mean, so maybe you could say, well, Trump could have released something right away or whatever. Yeah, I do believe that there are elitists that work at these very high billionaire levels, right? And they are in cahoots on things. I believe that that's been a lot of the relationship between the Democratic and the Republican Party for many years. They're controlled opposition. On TV, it's this and it's the pro wrestling thing, but then behind closed doors, they're cutting deals and
absolutely.
So I totally get all of that. I'm simply saying the reason why everyone is talking about it right now. First off, Trump didn't even have to run on it. I don't think that would have made the difference in his election. Maybe it would have. He didn't have to run on it. And then number two is the reason why you're hearing so much about it is because those megaphones that we have in our society, the arts and entertainment, social media, the regular media, they're all left-leaning. They're all
everybody's left-leaning?
Many of them, the major ones, outside of Fox, but the major ones are left-leaning. Hollywood, I think it'd be fair to say, generally speaking, is left-leaning outside of Angel Studios, who did The Sound of Freedom, which is a great film about human trafficking for minors and a faith-based film. So yeah, like that's a big part of the reason why, or even maybe say it's not a big part of the reason, but you would have to say, yeah, but it is a somewhat reasonable reason, or a somewhat slightly significant
I would say
reason.
that's a cop out to, and I've heard this a lot from conservative media. Everybody's on the left. That's why you don't agree with me. Or is it, I just don't agree with you? Maybe you're just wrong. Maybe it's possible that it's not everybody's left leaning, but this thing is important enough to be talked about. And that's why the majority of people are talking about it.
Then why didn't Kamala run on it?
Can I say so? This because look, man, maybe I'm just simplistic, right?
No, yeah.
Maybe I'm simplistic, but my mom's taught me this right here. Unless it's a surprise birthday party, if you hiding something, most likely you're doing something wrong. You know what I'm saying? So that's
I agree with you.
and so that's my thing. I'm like, just release the list. Look, and here's the thing. Like again, I keep going back to it because it's really what I feel. Whether it's blue, whether the people on that list are blue or red, I feel like people need to be dealt the consequences, right? So even if you know what I'm saying, Obama, you feel me? If Obama is on the list, like though the list is not invalid because of my political beliefs or whichever way I lean. Like the list is like, yo, if my favorite president, you know what I'm saying, was on that joint, I was like, dang, I'm heartbroken because you made that decision and I really didn't know that part of your heart. You know what I'm saying? But if he's not, if Trump is not, or these individuals are not, then there's nothing to be lost.
Now Obama committed treason. Soon as people start talking about, oh man, why you didn't release the list? Soon as his base is like, oh, wait a minute, I voted for you. You said you were going to release the list. Obama committed treason. Huh? You're talking about media games.
Yeah. So I want to call out something too that I think we're all agreeing on. I think all of us have said, right, if it's wrong, let's drop the political associations. Let's drop the red. Let's drop the blue. Let's do what's right, man. Let's just do what's right. Also, what Chris said earlier is, I think, a key to this conversation, and this is my opinion. This is my opinion about this all. I think we should release it. I think we should 100% release it. Release every bit of evidence that you have and let the people decide, right? Mm-hmm. This is a democracy. Yeah. This is a republic, what I like to call. But is this purely just breadcrumbs being thrown at us to keep you occupied? Is this something to keep your mind occupied?
Is the
off the true
is the list
going on in the world? Is Jeffrey Epstein? Is this purely a distraction? Because I think a lot of things that come out in today's society, especially around politics, and for people who say I want nothing to do with politics, I got to call you out. I'm sorry. For the audience, you can slander me in the comments all you want, but if we truly want a world better for our future, for our children, you got to get involved in conversations like this. You have to take a stance. You have to stand strong and let the world know where you stand. I stand with doing what's right, and my opinion is this: it's breadcrumbs. If you look at Trump's podcast that he did with Joe Rogan shortly before he won the election, they were talking about the JFK files, and he mentioned during his first term that he was going to release it, but some people close to him told him not to, and he quoted, "Those are good people, very good people." I'm just picturing I'm picturing Trump's voice, magnificent people, wonderful people, right? But the whole point is, I think we're looking at another major distraction that we probably just took 10, 15 minutes on this podcast talking about this. I think it's done strategically, and I think it's doing its purpose as it's always done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that?
Well, let me give you my final thought on this, which is kind of all things Trump, which is let it play out.
Yeah.
Let it play out. Mm-hmm. But I do want to address what you were saying about Obama, because, and I can't remember if it's the FBI or who, somebody came out saying that there is some sort of foul play with the Obama administration. Mm-hmm. If I can put on my tinfoil hat, this is what I think is going on.
There we go.
You ready?
Here we go.
I think it's a subtle way of calling Obama out and saying, hey, if you want a third term, I'll go up against the third term. Alien vs. Predator 2028.
I think everybody wants to see Obama be president again.
You know what I'm saying? Like majority. Hey, look, because here's the thing. The Constitution is a living document.
It is.
Right? And it's malleable, right? Mm-hmm. So if if Obama has enough support from his base and Trump has enough support from his base, well, Congress is empowered to make whatever changes to the Constitution there would need to be. I would be okay with something that says a non-consecutive, as long as it's non-consecutive in there, you can have a third term. I'd be okay with that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. Because of the non-consecutive piece. Because typically speaking in politics, the moment you get out of your seat, you're irrelevant. The world's passing by. You agree with that? And we're not about the presidency. We're not talking about someone that was senator and then they want to go governor and then they're, we're talking about the presidency. So that's my crazy prediction. And that's something that could motivate Obama.
So I think it's important too to talk about at what point are we undermining our own values as a country, undermining our own constitution, right? Or honestly, this is my opinion. I don't care who it is. A third term is absolute madness to me, for anybody, right? Our Constitution, let's call it for what it is. The United States is the most successful country to ever exist. You can debate that all you want. Really don't care. You can debate that all you want. We're the world's reserve currency. We have the most influential power. We have 10, almost 11 nuclear-powered submarines aircraft carriers that can go around the globe and project power at a pace that you've never seen.
Right. That's Midnight Hammer.
So, but the whole point of that is that our founding fathers drafted a constitution that has been largely successful. Are we undermining our own values if we start talking about Trump, Obama, third terms?
I don't think so at all, because the Constitution has changed over the years. It would be crazy to think that, nope, this is it. This is the final draft. 50 years from now, there wouldn't be a change. 100 years from now, there wouldn't be a change. But possibly there's an amendment because of some change that we see in the world with AI. No, the founding fathers were smart enough to know that a document like this could never be static.
That's an interesting point. I don't think that it's not malleable. I do think that to Trey's point, I think there's got to be a line that we don't cross. And that's, hey, anytime I want something to change that will benefit me, I change it. Because if that's the case, then every president after Trump becomes
you like Congress involved. There's a whole right. Right. That's so much of why the power of the executive order. Right. So when presidents are trying to do something expeditiously, we certainly have had no shortages of executive orders from the Trump administration. That's generally the route that they do it. But to change the Constitution, and you can fact check me. The comments can fact check me, but I think it's like 2/3 of Congress have to sign off on it. Right. And, it's a whole thing. So it's not something that's easily done. And then the Supreme Court has to also say, yes, this is constitutional or okay. Yeah. I think that you would see a lot more hubbub if we were talking about the Bill of Rights. Someone wants to make a change to specifically freedom of speech. Obviously, the Second Amendment gets a lot of talk, but there haven't been any fundamental changes to the Second Amendment.
Well,
that's just in recent history.
That's a good point. But you talk about freedom of speech. But here's the thing: when you have an administration that says, "I'm going to stop funding media outlets if they oppose me," you are dabbling in getting rid of freedom of speech. You can't just say freedom of speech with what I want to talk about. That's not how it works. I understand that there are political ideologies, but you can't say, oh, well, I don't like this show, so let's make sure they don't get any funding. That is literally getting rid of freedom of speech. Because they're not talking about conservative views that I like, or they're not talking about progressive views that I like.
Who are we talking about that's getting money? I guess, or I would hear that or see that
as canceled
as PBS or a publicly funded company. PBS can go and compete in the free market. Like, no one's shutting them down. Anytime CBS wants to bring Colbert back or wherever we're going with that, they can do that.
Well,
they totally have the freedom to do that.
PBS is another one,
right?
That was also, and my kids watch PBS. I think PBS has some of the best shows as it relates to
their profit margins will show that. And
it's not about it's not about profit margins. It's about what are we doing for our American citizens, and are we stopping something because what they're showing isn't what relates to our particular views when we're empowered to do it. Now, if you don't have any power to do so, it doesn't really make a difference. You could talk shit about PBS all day, but if you have the ability to say, well, I'm going to cut funding from these people, it also goes back to what we just found out about the vets, right? If you voted blue, they're trying to take away the ability for you to be seen by a doctor, a veteran doctor. That is completely out of control. So you're telling me that as a vet, I can't get health care. I don't know if you guys have heard this.
How would they ever know who you voted for?
You can check the registry. Everybody knows who you voted for.
Well, you can see who the political affiliation, but you can't see who they voted for. So you could be a registered Democrat and vote Republican and vice versa.
No, they can see who you voted for. If you voted, we have a system.
They can't see who you voted for.
Y'all let us know in the comments.
Please. Right. So guys, we appreciate you guys being here, man. Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to us. Again, listen, we're just four guys that simply want to promote conversation. You know, it just feels ever so often that, you know, we run into conversation in our daily lives that are very short, you know, very, you like to say not in depth like this, right? Mm. We're going deep. And I want you guys to realize, like, we're going deeply into our beliefs and why we believe the way we do. And I'm sure that, you know, all of our viewers, subscribers can see this. And I hope that, you know, you guys take away from this, like, you know, promote conversation too in your own environments. This is what this podcast is all about, you know, whether you agree with us or not. You know, if you want to be on here one day, let us know. You know, we'll be happy to have conversation with you, sit down, see why you think the way you do. Be happy to talk about it. But with that being said, this concludes episode 2.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Subscribe. Hit us up.